Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday Night Live. Just my TikTok screen here. So, if you've been watching the last week and episodes in between and the episodes of my podcast, you will know that I was just at the Monroe Institute and I just got to do the Gateway Experience. And where I left off in those videos was we were going to focus level 15. So, the Monroe Institute is a facility that was developed in the 70s to study altered states of consciousness, learn how to do out of body experience, overall meditation, brain studies, brain waves. And now by this point, they have gotten so advanced that they are really able to assist with out of body experiences. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have practiced with the Gateway tapes online. So, where we left off was level 15, and I'm going to get right into it. So, focus level 15 is outside of time and space. And if you're interested in hearing more about the Monroe Institute, more about my experience there, more about focus levels 10 and 12, go back and watch the previous videos on the playlist. So, when we were in the discussion room before going in and trying out the level 15 meditation, which then has the frequencies, the hemisync technology to assist you to get to level 15, which, like I said, is outside of time and space. So when we were about to go into the meditation, I thought, if we're going to go outside of time and space, where would I like to go? Because when you start going to these higher levels or just more expanded awareness, it's good to have a mission, a goal, something that you want to do, that you want to achieve there, because it's very easy to fall asleep or click out, which I talked about in the previous videos. So I wanted to make sure that I had an idea of where I wanted to go, what I wanted to achieve, and not just leave it out to the open. So once we decided we were going outside of time and space, I said, you know where I want to go? Is the Library of Alexandria. Now, before 6 months ago, last year, whenever it was, I had zero interest in the Library of Alexandria. This is not something that I've done a lot of research on. It's not something that I know a lot about. But in my QHHT sessions, it keeps coming up. So I've had multiple QHHT hypnosis clients that have gone to the Library of Alexandria, told me about the Library of Alexandria. So I was like, oh my God, am I like having a Dolores Cannon moment where I'm about to uncover some information about something that is not fully known yet? So I started to be more interested in it, but I still didn't do the research because I wanted to actually get this information just from the hypnosis clients. But now having the opportunity to travel outside of time and space myself, I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Library of Alexandria. So I actually combined part of the QHHT method with the Gateway experience. So the way we'll learn a new level in the Gateway program is you'll go to the previous level that you learned, which in this case was 12. And then so they go 12 to 15. You spend some time at level 15, then come back to 12, and then back to 15 again. And then back to 12, then back to 10, then back to 1. So this is how you get used to going to that level and then coming down so you can feel the difference between 12 and 15, and then you can feel the difference between 12 and 10. So once we are at level 12, I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I'm going to stay awake. I'm going to get there. And as we start to go up, I visualize the number 13, which is the 13th floor on an elevator. So it's already a place that is kind of outside of time and space, right? Because it used to be superstitious to have a 13th floor. So then I see the elevator go up to level 14. And then at level 15, I step out onto a cloud. And in QHHT, we often use a cloud as the vehicle for us to travel to a place in the subconscious mind, a place in the past, a past life, a subliminal, liminal space. The cloud is the vehicle. So I go out to the cloud and I set the intention that I want to go to the Library of Alexandria. So I'm relaxed, I'm on the cloud, and then I see below sandiness, but there's nothing around. And then I just see this one structure. And actually, I have a photo. I had AI create a photo. Now, this is somewhat close to what I saw. Of course, I created this with AI, so it's not going to be exactly what I saw. And so I should probably go back a second. No, no, I should go back a second and talk about some of the things that I had learned. Yeah, I'm going to go back a sec because one of the things that someone said, and I see you here, said about the Library of Alexandria while under hypnosis was this really groundbreaking thing, which is the Library of Alexandria never burned. Now, it burned in this timeline, but there is a parallel timeline that the Library of Alexandria did not get destroyed. Similar to this concept of the new Earth, how they say there is one timeline where Earth experiences destruction and another timeline where it doesn't, that continues on. They also talk about this happening within Atlantis, where in one timeline, the timeline that we perceive, Atlantis fell, Atlantis sank, Atlantis was destroyed. In a parallel timeline, Atlantis never was destroyed and still exists. So this was the first time I had ever heard that the Library of Alexandria did not burn, and it still exists in a parallel dimension, in a parallel timeline. So that's what made me think when we go outside of time and space, I wanted to go to that version of the library that still exists now. So I'm like, we're going outside of time and space. I want to go to that version of it, not going to the past. Now, I will talk about some of the stories that have come through from other people of going to the past, to the Library of Alexandria within this timeline. So I see myself on the cloud and I see kind of a bit of a desert oasis, not really watery, but like the energy is oasis and it kind of is like not much around it, but it feels like very lively, even though it's a desert. And the sky is like super vibrant. Like it's just very vibrant for a desert, but not hot feeling, like just a bit like ethereal feeling. And so I come down on the cloud and then I see myself actually from behind myself, which is what makes me believe that this is not my past life and that I was not this person, that I was just witnessing through this person because I didn't feel that this was me. And I'm going to put the image here. So I was this, or I was experiencing it through this man who was wearing this type of, wrap, toga type of outfit. And it was like saffron colored, but a little bit red, a little bit peachy, a little bit orange. And he had this kind of walking stick staff. And he was standing in front of this library. Now, the way that ChatGPT created it was more architecturally like structured normally. And if you guys on TikTok are watching and you want to see the images, because I'm going to have a lot of images in this one, come over to YouTube, JK Ultra on YouTube. So it was a little bit more like ethereal shaped than this, but very close to this, but just a little bit ethereal. Like it's hard to describe, a little bit more magical looking than this, but this is like what it looked like. And so he enters and it looked kind of similar to this. But again, this is like a bit warm feeling. It wasn't really warm, it was bright, but very similar to this. And right when you walked in, there was this large wooden table that had these seashells on it. And I remember touching one of the seashells and then like knowing it was from like all around the world. And there was some type of figure. Now, with AI, I just created kind of a generic figure. I don't know. I couldn't tell what the figure was that was in the center. They did it as like a person, more of a religious figure, but I feel like it was a different, like, I feel like it was a symbol or something. So, this image in the center. And then behind, if you can see, is like this red throne. And then on the sides, there were these kind of credenza type of things. And there was all of these papers, like papyrus type of papers, and like they were bound together, and there was like some scrolls open, and there was something similar to like stained glass, but it wasn't really like stained glass. It was like just this like magical light coming through, almost colorful like light coming through windows. And so I'm kind of like taking it in, and I'm thinking like, one, it's very vivid. I'm having a sensory experience in the sense that I feel myself there. I see, I sense, but I wasn't having an emotional connection to being in that body or being in that space. I was having a sensory experience. And then I start to kind of get some doubt, and I start to think like, "Oh, am I really in Alexandria?" And then I kind of think a little bit in my head, like, well, I've actually never looked up like a drawing or a depiction of Alexandria. So I don't even know what it looks like. And then I'm like, wait. And then I was like, no, like, don't pull yourself out of it. Cause I already know. I mean, I've had how many hypnosis clients that I know once you start questioning, you start to pull yourself out of the experience. So I was like, okay, don't do that. And then this man approaches me, and this man looked very familiar. He looked like the person the first time I astral traveled. So I'm calling this astral travel. Now, it is arguably out of body experience. It is arguably meditation. It's also called like there's many different things. So people could be very specific and technical about what it is. It could similar to hypnosis, it's similar to a past life regression, whatever you want to call this experience that I'm describing. But I felt extremely immersed in it, just not emotionally immersed, which was interesting because a lot of times in past life regression type stuff, you feel more emotionally connected. But this man approaches, and I've seen this man before. The first time I tried to astral travel on December 21st, 2020, which is oh, crazy. We're having that conjunction again, right? There was that grand conjunction on December 21st of 2020, and it's like squaring that again right now. I just saw a video of that on that day. So on December 21st, 2020, I tried to astral project. And so I got to what I called the Akashic records at that time, which looked different than this. And then, but I see that man who I saw in the Akashic records, and he approaches me. He's like this old, scrawny type of man, very kind of like Merlin like, but not really wearing that type of outfit. He's dressed pretty just normal for that time, for this kind of like toga wraparound type of thing. And so he comes up to me, and I ask him, like, how do I know that I'm really in Alexandria? And he said, "Put out your hand." So I put my hand out, and he puts this item in my hand. And I look at it, and I bought the identical item. I'll get to that in a second. So I look at this item, and it looks like there's a lot of things that are this shape. So this is like a armillary, armillary sphere. It's also like sometimes called like celestial spheres. What I saw it as, because I've done more research since then, but at that moment I was like, "Oh, this looks like the Ophanim, like the biblically accurate angels. It looks like the Ophanim, which is like sometimes called like the wheels of Ezekiel or the chariot of God." And it was from, and I also have this here, from the Be Not Afraid Oracle deck, the Ophanim card, where we have this concept of biblically accurate angels of being these wheels, which also looks like the spaceship from the movie Contact, which is how she goes to another dimension and like breaks outside of time and space. So I see that, and I'm like, okay, like, so then I have it. And then I hear Robert Monroe's voice come in on the recording, and he's like, "Okay, now we're going back to level 12 because that's how they train you to go up to these new levels." So now we're being brought back down to level 12. And I was like, coming back down to level 12. And I'm like, whoa, that was super intense. And as I said in the previous videos, every time I would come down levels, I felt a little bit overwhelmed being in the body because I felt less and less in the body as the levels went up. So when this level came back down, I was like, oh, I'm started to feel overwhelmed. Then they're like, okay, we're going back up to level 15 and starts moving us back up to level 15. So I don't have a plan for level 15. I don't have a plan for the next time. So I'm just now going with it because this happened pretty quickly and I was still adjusting. So we go back up to level 15. I see the same thing, level 13 in the elevator, level 14 in the elevator. I'm in the cloud, going in the cloud, and I come off, but I'm inside the library again. Oh, actually, I'm missing a part. He gives me the thing. After he gives me this, he tells me to follow him. And we go over to this red throne in the back. So this happened on this side, like on the left side. And then we walk behind the table and he brings me to that red throne. Now that red throne was in the center, but if I put it in the center in AI, you wouldn't see it. So that red throne chair, he has me sit in that chair. And then that's when I was brought back down. Now I'm being brought back up to level 15, come off the cloud. I'm sitting in that throne exactly where I was left off, but I'm a different person. Now I'm an older man, and I don't know if I'm the same man, older, and he just got less strong and is more like kind of shriveled, or this was a different man, but he felt a lot wiser and smaller than this man here who I've originally witnessed through. So, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting another part again. You guys, what's wrong with me? Okay. I was in the throne. First time I'm in level 15. I wish I could start over, but I can't. It's alive. If I was recording this alone, I would. Okay. I'm in the throne back at the first time I'm at level 15. Sit in the throne. A monster comes against the stained glass window. And it looks like kind of like the thing from Ghostbusters, just kind of like this kind of blob type of being. And he presses up against the window of the library. And I just have a knowingness like, oh, this is human greed. Then that was the end. So I had that last moment of as that was clicking out to clicking back down. This is human greed, this monster that is trying to get in. Now I'm back at the throne, brought back. However, it doesn't feel as ethereal. It feels more solid the second time I go back and I'm in the smaller man's body and or just the weaker man's body. And I feel more in the body than I did in the first one. And everything feels more real. There's real people here. There's people in this library. There's people doing things. And I'm sitting in that same seat, in that same throne, and the doors bust open. And then it's like flashes of moments so quick. Like, so it's like men in like armory with weapons coming in, and then there's like a horse for a moment, and then there's people running frantically, and there's people trying to grab things and run out to save them, and they're just getting killed. And everybody, it's like it's just chaos. And I'm sitting in this throne as this is starting to get closer. They're kind of just going crazy, like just looting, destroying, killing everyone in the place. And in this like kind of scrawnier older man's body, I stand up at the edge of this table and they're kind of coming along the sides, getting closer to me. And I felt like pure joy, pure like pleasure, like, oh, wow, how fun. We get to do it all over again. And then I get sliced with like some sword type of thing, hook sword type of thing, and, killed. But as it's, like, happening, it's like the body is, like, dropping, but then I'm still, like, there and just having this, like, awareness as everything is, like everyone's panicking, everyone's crying, things are getting set on fire, people are just rummaging everything, and I'm standing there watching, and I'm like, "Wow, how lucky are we? We get to play the game again. We get to figure all of this out again." I'm like, "Oh my god, the game is starting over. We're so lucky." And then we start getting brought back from level 15 again, back we're about to get brought back, and so I'm starting to kind of more just get the wisdom and not as much the visual, and it's saying, like, knowledge cannot be lost. There is no such thing as lost knowledge. There is only momentary forgetting of knowledge. Knowledge is always there. It's once it's been learned, once it's been discovered, it already always exists, and before it's discovered, it exists. If it's forgotten, it still exists. So there's no such thing as lost knowledge. It's always there, it's always going to be there. We get to have the fun, the game of discovering it again. And just this guy was like, "Wow, cool. We're gonna get to do this all over again. The game isn't over." And then And then as it was kind of fading to black from there and kind of fading more to void, I got the message, everyone is connected through here. Everyone has been here. That this is not for like a select few. This is not for the alchemists. This is not for the scholars. This is not for the geniuses. This is not for the truth seekers. This is everyone's. This library belongs to everyone. So it was like the first time I went to it in the astral realm. The second time was like a past life in the physical type of experience with it. And then I'm just kind of coming back. We go back to level 12, back to level 10, back to level 1, which is waking consciousness. And I'm like, I come back into the body and I'm like, like putting the hood on. Everybody knew that when I was coming back into the room and I had the hood on, I'd be like I don't want to make eye contact with anybody. Like I needed a minute to like process what just happened. But I just think that was so, like, important because, 1, the whole waking up thing, wake people up, teaching, all of that, it's like, that's the game. The game is finding it out. It's the pleasure of finding it out. It's the pleasure of learning, and I am someone who's very connected to that type of path, that excites me, but also, like, everybody everybody finds it all out anyway. Like, it's okay. Everybody learns it all the time. So I wanna talk about this symbol. So, I wanna talk about this because then I bought one of what it gave me, and through research, I found out more about this. And so this is like, yeah, the wheels within the wheels from the book of Ezekiel. It's talked about in the book of Daniel. Now, I'm trying to wonder after this happens, like, I'm, like, thinking about this symbol in my head, and I'm like, "So what does this mean?" How does that mean I'm really in the Library of Alexandria? And then the next day, I'm sitting there at lunch with Patty Dubroff, who I just did the podcast with. You should go watch last week's episode of Ultra Minds because we talk about our experience, which there's a whole nother parallel experience that was happening with Theosophy and Madame Blavatsky that we talk about that happened while we were at Monroe. But I'm sitting there and she's talking, she's telling a story, and I'm kind of looking at her and also looking past her. And then I see this. We're in Monroe, and this is just sitting above the condiments. So I'm like sitting there and I'm like, what is this like? Still in my mind, like, what is this symbol? Like, how do I know it's real? Like, I asked, like, how is this real? Am I really in Alexandria? How will I know? And then this object is supposed to tell me. So then I'm looking and I'm like, "Oh my god, that's it right there." And then I start to get, I'm starting to realize it's everywhere and it's in all different types of things. So then we're watching a documentary about like Monroe. Not really a documentary. It was like interviewing some of the like people who've come through Monroe and some information about it. It was one of the nights that we weren't going to do another meditation in the middle of the day. It was giving us like a bit of a break. And so like an atom comes onto the screen and I'm like, "Oh my god, like the atomic particles, the orbit of electrons, this symbol that means science, this symbol that means quantum mechanics, this symbol that means physics is this shape. It is the same thing. It is these spheres orbiting, these interlocking spheres that are orbiting. And then I'm like, oh my gosh. So this is like the Ophanim. This is like the movie Contact. This is like atomic particles, electrons moving. I'm like, oh, so the chariot of God, as it's in the Bible. Let me see. I have some notes about the Bible stuff. Okay. So, where is it? So, the wheels within the wheels. This is the Ophanim. This shows up in the book of Ezekiel. So, Ezekiel, he sees these wheels moving in all directions. And this is like considered like a biblically accurate angel. And then it also has eyes. So it's like all of these different perspectives, all of the different IMs, all of the different visions and versions and perspectives within consciousness. And then so I started talking about it with one of the facilitators about like, "Oh my god, that symbol right there is the thing that was given to me in my hand." And then he's like, "Well, it's kind of like the Merkaba as well." So like even though the Merkaba is a bit more, pointy edges, it's still kind of the same thing. And the Merkaba is also like a chariot of God. And it's considered this chariot of light with these rotating rings. And especially too, in like Jewish mysticism, it's very much with this chariot of God, where you're able to then, in a lot of the new age stuff, it's more so like after you die, you can travel in a Merkaba or things can travel to you in a Merkaba. So then I am on Instagram a couple days after I get home, and this exact ring, which this folds down to a ring, pops up on my story. And it says in Germany in the 1500s, people used to give each other these rings as engagement rings. So then I like screenshotted it and put that image into Amazon to find one. And whether that's true about it showing up in Germany in that way, I don't know. Or if that was just like the universe, like helping me to then find what this actually also is, which is an armillary. I'm probably saying it wrong. Armillary sphere. So this has the equator, the eclipses, the zodiac, the seasons, and this is how astronomers used to l- keep track of the stars and of the planets before telescopes. They would use these armillary spheres, and sometimes they're called celestial spheres. And so they move in all directions. And this shows the movement of the stars, the movement of the planets, the orbit of the earth. And what's crazy is as I started looking into what this is, so they found these as much as like 400 BC in China. They also had them in Greece. They found them in all of these different ancient civilizations that were allegedly not connected to each other, were have all had these things of how they were tracking the astronomy. So then I'm thinking too, like going a little deeper into this. Let me look at my notes. Because then, okay, Book of Daniel, Wheels of Blazing Fire comes up. So this is like a map of the cosmos in the day, back in the day. So it's like a microcosm of the cosmos. with this little thing, and it rotates in all directions, and it's like almost like a little spiritual compass, but then also scientific as well. And then it's also interesting that it shows up in all of these different things, right? So it was showing up in all of these different cultures in ancient times from all different places, which is interesting about the Library of Alexandria was like that, right? Alexandria had all of these different things from around the world congregating in one library, information from all over. And then also, it's biblical, it's spiritual with the Merkaba, it's scientific because it looks like an atom, it looks like the orbit of electrons. And then, of course, the atoms, the quantum particles, are the chariots of God. So it's like all of these different layers. And, this just happened like a week ago when I was at Monroe Institute. And I've just kind of been like still processing and grounding from the experience. But it's really like quantum, divine, and then kind of coming back to the ophonym where this has eyes all over it and it has many different eyes. So then that makes me think like, well, what about that's consciousness, right? So, like, one quantum particle has many different eyes in the sense of how many different I ams, like how when you observe the particle, it reacts differently to the person. So, the perception of that person impacts the particle. So, then we kind of go back to this ophanim where it's many different eyes. So, it's also like considered like a vehicle. So, okay, so now let's kind of get to this Library of Alexandria stuff. So then it gets a little crazier here. So I told you about the one hypnosis session where I was told that the Library of Alexandria still exists in another dimension. That is what motivated me to want to go there outside of time and space. But there's several things that have happened before and after that. So the first time I ever did a group past life regression. So Dolores Cannon created the QHHT method of hypnosis. She also has a script for group past life regressions. In 2023, I held a online event to do a group past life regression using Dolores's exact script. My best friend Chelsea went to a past life at the Library of Alexandria. So that was the first time that I had an experience with this. And it's crazy. She's my best friend. So she goes through a past life as a Library of Alexandria, and she was like, kind of like, a speaker, philosopher, teacher type of person who would come through there and had been there doing things throughout her life. And I believe I might be remembering wrong. I should have asked her before I got on live that her husband was also in that lifetime with her and that they were like lovers in that life as well. I think that is, if I'm remembering correctly. Now, what's crazy about this? Dolores Cannon herself. So, a lot of people who are into Dolores Cannon's work always wonder, like, well, what's Dolores Cannon's past lives? If she created QHHT, did she ever go under? What is her past life story? She only shared two. And one of her past life stories was she was like a young apprentice, intern type of person at the Library of Alexandria. And she would basically like assist all of these scholars and assist all of these philosophers. And when it was getting burned down, she has this traumatic past life memory of trying to grab as much books and scrolls and papers and stuff. Now, I didn't see books when I was there. I saw bound papers. It wasn't hardcover books like when you kind of go to the Akashic records. So she grabs like all these scrolls and these papers and tries to run out and like falls on the ground just as it's like up in flames. And The reason why Dolores Cannon in this life ended up writing all these books and creating this QHHT was because of the past life trauma that she felt she didn't protect the information and it was lost. So she felt that it was her responsibility to protect that information, and she failed, in her opinion. And then that's why she, in this current lifetime, became this Dolores Cannon and had this earthly mission to uncover lost knowledge, to develop a method to get this knowledge, and then to put it in books and make it available to people and to give the information back. So the fact that Dolores Cannon has this past life at Library of Alexandria, first time I do the QHHT in a public setting, my best friend goes to a past life in Library of Alexandria. Fast forward to last year and earlier this year, I had someone go to Library of Alexandria and say that it still exists outside of time. I had another person who went to Library of Alexandria and actually experienced levitating objects with their voice. So I won't tell like the whole past life story because, there's a lot to it. But in this one part of their past life, there was like a small pebble-sized object, and doing vocal toning, vocal sounds was able to lift the object up, and there was these masters in the Library of Alexandria that was training them to do it. So these masters were able to lift larger objects because they were more skilled at using their voice and more of them together. As this person was sharing this information, I literally had chills all over my body and was like, "Oh my god, this is how the pyramids were built. This is crazy." When levitating objects using their voice, using sound, and like an inexperienced person who's getting trained by them, it just picks a little pebble-sized thing up. So then I had another person shortly after have a past life in Egypt. They go to the foot of the Sphinx, put their hand on the paw of the Sphinx, and they said, "Oh, there's a library here." And I'm like, "Oh, where's the library?" They're like, "In another dimension." And I'm vaguely remembering, but they were like, "It's like in another dimension or like in a parallel reality or another realm." And I'm like, "What is this?" And I'm trying not to lead them into saying anything, because I have to still, even if I think something is coming up or think something is happening, I still, in that hypnotic state, have to be like, "Okay, well, what is it? Tell me. Do you have any knowingness? Can you sense anything? What does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like?" So I still need to remain very neutral to not lead anybody into any information. But I was shocked that another person is like now in Egypt and there's a library, but I'm like, "But they're at the Sphinx. That doesn't make sense." And they said, "It's below the Sphinx, but it's also in another dimension. There is a like astral library of all the information at the paw of the Sphinx." Like, this is some crazy stuff. Like, so I really haven't done any research on the Library of Alexandria. So at the same time, I really don't know if there's what the information about Alexandria is. Okay, let me see if that was all I had. Um, okay, so I have some other stuff around kind of this type of interlocking wheels. So then we have some things that are a little bit more flat. So, like, say, for example, if we have a sound wave or a brain wave or, you know, light waves, those are 2D impressions. We're seeing it in a 2D way. So, a 2D is a wave. If we were to see these things in 3D, they're not actually waves up and down, they're spirals. So a sound wave is actually a spiral. A light wave is actually a spiral, like the Fibonacci spiral that is all of creation, that everything is operating on. But when we measure these things and put them onto flat 2D surfaces, we see them as waves. So then that has me thinking with this shape, this ophinum shape, that what if some of these other principles are similar? So the word chakra, it actually means wheel. So it means wheel. And then also in other Hindu, Buddhist teachings, dharma is a wheel. And let me see if I have some images here. Mhm. Let me see if I have a bunch of images that I pulled up. Okay, let's see. Okay, so then this is the other thing. I kind of skipped ahead. But this is an Alex Gray painting of like a psychedelic experience. This is a wheel within wheels and eyes of wheels. So this is the other thing. Were some of these biblical things actually psychedelic experiences? The first time I had this type of experience on mushrooms and I saw the wheels of eyes, I was like, oh, so are the biblically accurate angels psychedelic experiences? Or when we have psychedelic experiences, are we seeing the true nature of creation? So this is like a ophinum type of imagery. Okay, so this is an image from 1525, and this is of the armillary sphere with these heads. These heads are called wind heads, but again, they almost look like angelic type of beings that are blowing the orbit or creating, influencing the orbit of the planet. And then we kind of get into some of these more modern symbology, right? So, like the seed of life. When we look at these things, we're seeing these things as, when we look at sacred geometry, we're seeing it as 2D because it's flat. We have to imagine all of these are 3D images. So, some of these things, 3D, could also be moving images. Sacred geometry, we see it as something that is stagnant, still, 2D. The same way we see brain waves and sound waves and light waves as 2D. But in reality, they're spirals. So, what if these sacred geometry symbols are moving objects, like we know everything is moving from the quantum level? Every single thing is moving. There is nothing that is still. Every particle is moving. So what if these are moving? I know we're getting pretty out here too. And then this kind of keeps growing, right? The Taurus, could that be similar to what this is as well? And this is like from the 1500s. Like this sphere is from the 1500s, and now we're seeing this same type of thing in our modern day as sacred geometry. But what if we're still looking at it from our lens of now? And so this is another one. So then it like goes from, a circle, Vesica Pisces, it grows, 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 keeps becoming these different things. And then we get to like Metatron's cube, which is the Metatron's cube in a way looks kind of similar to this. And I'm not making any definitive statements here. I'm thinking out loud. I've been thinking about this for the last week, ever since this happened to me. So then we have this in esoteric traditions. We have this hexagram, and this hexagram means as above, so below, right? So it's like a um six-pointed star, Star of David type of thing, Merkaba type of thing, flattened into 2D within a circle. So again, that is like another depiction of this type of shape. And so what we have is light and dark. So as above, so below. These other things represent the four elements. And then the trinity of it, which is mind, body, spirit, which this is very similar to what in the new age we are doing with these more advanced type of seed of life, flower of life, Metatron's cube. The tree of life is inside of these. So the other thing is too, is with this, let me come back here. With this sphere, it's very similar to the way that, because it represents the orbit of the earth, which is light and dark. It represents the, seasons because it represents the eclipses, right? So that's the dawn of different seasons, the four seasons, the four elements. And then we have this next level, more inward. Let me pull this up. More inward, where we then start getting to the Trinity and then start getting to the self. Now, I'm kind of tagging on to this thing where there's this kind of God's hexagram article that came up. And they talk about how the Star of David, but then how this comes up in all different traditions. So then in Hinduism, we're seeing this in so many different ways, from the chakras, which mean wheel, to these like sacred geometry, which we consider it now, right? And then all of these different depictions of the same type of symbol. Then it gets into like Buddhism, shows that there is some occurrences of it in like Christianity. They're showing depictions of it in Islam, showing that buildings are built in this shape as well. And then it kind of gets to the seal of America, which I think is a little bit of a stretch. But again, these building on these things, like this is our like evolution of consciousness here. And then the Dharma chakra. So this is basically like the symbol of reincarnation, of learning your dharma, of learning your karma, of enlightenment, of being born again, being born again, being born again to learn enlightenment. And then here we have the Ophanum. And then we have another depiction of it, which is the Hermetic alchemical illustration. And this is like with the seal of Solomon. And this is like said to like, whatever, keep away evil spirits. And then it gets back to also theosophy, which is crazy. Because if you watched the episode with Patty Dubroff, we had this whole connection to theosophy during this same Monroe experience, where it's putting all of these different symbols together. And again, is this also similar to a psychedelic experience where there's all of these eyes and wheels within wheels and geometric shapes? And then this one is I know I'm really getting out there with this one, but I don't know. I was very in an altered state, and then I looked at my phone and I saw the ChatGPT symbol, and I was like, so I don't know. I looked it up. The ChatGPT symbol is not the Ophanum. It is not the wheel, Ezekiel's wheels. It is not the wheel within the wheel. That's not what they say that it is. But I don't know. It's giving Chariot of God, ChatGPT. Let me see if I have other images here. Yeah, so here's Ophanum. Here's the image of Ezekiel with the cherubim and the Ophanim. Again, another biblically accurate angel. These are the ones I showed you. And then here's another one of these armillary spheres, which it's explaining the different things that were used to kind of use this. So like how it was used for Astronomers. The sphere in contact. Yes. Yes. And in contact, in contact, when she goes inside of this chariot of God looking thing, what happens to her, right? It falls. And in those 0.00003 seconds, she goes somewhere, goes to a completely different dimension, meets these beings, all of this. She has a whole entire profound experience. She doesn't believe in like God. She doesn't believe in this type of stuff. And then has a full blown God experience in like 0.00003 seconds. And then they say, like, and she comes back and she's like, that was crazy. I can't wait to tell you what happened. And they're like, nothing happened. You didn't make it. Which is again this type of thing of like multiple dimensions. It's like a cosmic compass. It's like multiple realms. And the way that these spheres all go in all directions, it's like this is all the different versions of the moment. Okay, let's see. I'm going to look at some of the comments here. Okay, let me look here. No, please do not request to come in. Okay, so let's see. So excited about this topic. Obsessed with the Library of Alexandria. Can't wait to hear about your experience. Thank you. Thank you. Used to be obsessed with the Library of Alexandria. Do you sense the Library of Alexandria and Halls of Amenti are the same? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know enough about either of them historically. So I'm not sure. I'm sure Jennifer Sodini, who created this biblically accurate angel deck, would be much more aware of that topic. Because, I was not a history person. I wanted to know about the aliens in the future. So this has kind of come into my sphere. There's still ruins in the ocean. Wow. What a trippy thought. Love that. So that you can tune into alternate timelines. Halls of Amenti is under the Sphinx. Pyramids, as per all the Egyptians talked on tour in Egypt. Wow. Mm-hmm. Your knees are vibrating. Wow, Meg. I like that. Yeah, please don't forget to like the video. Thanks. My first time seeing you live. I wanted to say hi. See you Thursday. Let's see. The shells, right. What's crazy about the shells is I don't have it here, but the other deck by Jennifer Sodini, she has Be Not Afraid. The other deck is the Amenti Oracle about Amenti, and there's a shell on the front. Wow. Wheel in a wheel. The celestial sphere of the angelic realms. Yes, the Ophanim. Lots of eyes and spinning wheels. The wheel is supposed to represent time. The other represents space. Then spin them together and point them if you want. And it's dimensional travel. Wow. Okay. I draw this all the time and even question if our solar system is a spiral, maybe other planets revolving around the sun in other directions. True, right? We're seeing the orbit of the planets as like this flat thing that we are looking at. Again, a spiral probably as well. Where can you find these? This is on Amazon. I think I looked up like astronomical sphere. Oh, so let me show you something cool. Sorry, TikTok. You'll have to see later. It's a ring. Wow. Pretty cool. Okay. You spoke at the library and was told not to prepare beforehand. Wow. You kept getting these messages about atoms in the solar system, then breaking it down to the soul hour system. Whoa, Haley. And researched the relationship between the nucleus and protons and compared that to the relationship of our sun and the planets. Wow. Everything is the holographic, universe, right? So, like, what is the holographic model, right? The holographic model is the pattern. Every small piece has the whole within of the full within it. So this is the microcosm of the macrocosm. Every cell is the microcosm of the macrocosm. So of course, what is happening in a cell, what is happening in an atom is also what's happening in the solar system. Is also what's happening, in our galaxy, which is happening in our universe. Oh, wow. So the sound levitation resonates so much for you. The lectures by Michael Tellinger is what got me into healing Ascension Path decades ago. Wow. Michael Tellinger talks exactly about that sound being used to build pyramids and older buildings. Wow. Wow. That's the ayahuasca realm. Yeah, this one with the eyes. Now, the other thing that I realized, so, these psychedelic visions, right? That one that I had put up, like Alex Gray's artwork. While I was at Monroe, we watched a video about cymatics. And I'm sure you guys know what cymatics are. If you don't, look it up. It's super cool. So, cymatics is like there's a plate and there'll be like sand or salt on it. And when they play sound, it makes different geometric shapes. So it's with a Cymatics, cymatics. Look it up, watch a bunch of different cymatics videos. But that made me realize also when I was watching, because I was very, you're doing these meditations, you get these aha revelations a lot. And I had just been thinking about this. And then I saw this cymatics video and I was like, psychedelic visions is us seeing the sound. It's not only vision. And I always think about this channeled message in Bringers of the Dawn, where they said that we see, yeah, that's how you spell it. We perceive sound and light to be two separate things. Sound and light are one thing, but because we get it through two different holes, we see it, well, four different holes, right? That's why we think light and sound are two separate things. And that has stuck in my mind for like 10 years. That I'm like, wow, it probably is the case. We think light is one thing because we take it in here, and we think sound is another thing because we take it in here. But this information is traveling both through waves, which are spirals. I know I sound like I'm like about to go over the deep end, when you're like getting the revelations and you can't put them into words. But then that's what I was thinking about, like in ayahuasca ceremonies. Obviously, the visuals are so intense, or at least for me, they were. And when they would sing the Icaros, when they would sing these healing songs, I would see. So when I was in Peru at Soltara, when Maestra Maricela, when she was 1 second before she was started singing, I saw the whole room go like wormhole, geometric, click, 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 click. And then it was full blown psychedelic experience. And I remember as that was happening, as this like wormhole of psychedelic happened, I was like, "Oh shit, I forgot that this was the scary part of ayahuasca." Because I was like, "Oh, I only remembered the good stuff." When that started, I was like, "Oh shit, I forgot the scary part." And it's beautiful, but it's a lot. And so now then I was in Monroe Institute and I was watching the cymatic video and I was like, "Oh my god, those cymatics look very similar to the ayahuasca visuals." And then I'm like, "Oh my god, I would see those visuals with the music, with the singing." And that's what was creating them. And then it made me realize I would see the visuals start right 1 second before she was singing. What was probably happening it was taking a second to get to my ear, and time is so expanded that I was seeing the movement in the air, in light, in sound 1 second before I was able to hear it. You were seeing the changing of the dimension, right? You said we close our eyes when music is too loud. Interesting. Maestro, you love her music. Oh, it's so beautiful. Mm. Ooh, talking about the lights being loud. That's why coherence is important. Lately, you see eyes when you meditate. So this is really interesting. This is, I really think, the eyes, right? So what is I, right? I I is I, right? So I have my perception, my individual perception, my individual vantage point is what makes I am. So we have one, well, we had none. Okay, first we had none. And then one said, I am that I am. And then we had one. And then that one splits into two, splits into three, splits into four. The four become these pillars to create a physical reality of the third dimension. Then we start going on and on. But then, okay, so then that fractals, fractals, fractals. So it's like, it's I am that I am. I am all. I am light. I am sound. I am everything. I am all that is. I am light and I am dark. And then you become the third, then you become the fourth and the fifth, sixth, and you start expanding into all of these things. These become the four elements. And then now, billions and billions of I ams later, becomes I am Jenn. I am Natasha. I am Haley. I am Meg. I am that. And then so I am becomes the individual small I, the small I, the I of the whole. So that's what I think when we see these things in consciousness, right? When we take psychedelics or meditate, as you're experiencing these through meditation, that's consciousness, right? Consciousness is billions or trillions of I ams. Because why does source fractal into all of the individual I ams? To the good guy, the bad guy, the this, the that, the tall one, the short one, the funny one, the not fun one, the this, the that. The plants, the trees, the animals, this animal, that animal, the predator, the prey. Why does God, why does source, why does consciousness split into all of these different I ams? There is one truth, there is one moment, it is all at once. But it's the vantage point of every perspective of that one. Right? So if there's one, think of like a ball, think of a sphere. Oh shit. In the center. So a lot of times in the center of this, there is an earth. In the center of the ophanim, in the center of the ophanim, there is one I am. In the center of the atom, there's a nucleus. There is that one I am. So think of the one as a ball, as a sphere. In the center is the one. And then all of these different vantage points of the one see that center. And now it might be looking this way. They might not be seeing God yet. They might not be reaching oneness. That's okay. They can look in every direction they want. That's why these eyes are all looking in the different directions of the different I ams. Source splits into individual fractals to see the collective and understand the all of everything. Right. And we are rendering all reality as we perceive it. Exactly. So you said you're cracking the codes today. I love it. I know I'm on some shit. I'm on that gateway experience. Okay. That's the craziest plant medicine that I've taken. Let me see if there was other things. Okay, like samsara, the wheel of the law, the wheel of karma. We also have in Hinduism the lokas, which is the wheel, like the rings of existence. But we're seeing these things as flattened images, right? So the wheel, the Dharma wheel is flat. We see the chakras. Do I have the chakras? Or chakras, right? Because chakras means wheel. Mami Onami called that out. She says if you say chakra, it means cucumber. But I'm just so used to saying it. But chakra means wheel. So let's see. Let me put this one up. I think this is the one that I can. Okay, here we go. Okay, one sec. Okay, yes. So look at this, like the chakras. Oh God, I'm failing the captchas. I'm cracking the codes. Ugh. I'm cracking the codes to the universe, and I failed 3 captchas in a row. How embarrassing. Okay, so you see these chakra wheels. Are we seeing these as flat things? Are we seeing the Dharma wheel as flat thing? Are we seeing the lokas? Let me pull it up. The lokas, let's see. Vedic cosmology. We're seeing, right? This is what like the planes look like. Right? So these are like the different worlds, the different dimensions above each other, stacked on each other. And then see the other universes are outside. We are inside this one. Our universe is our one, is our bubble, is our source. And then these are higher and lower dimensions, realms, all of that. What if these are kind of also doing the same thing, different depictions? Different depictions of this same type of thing. So is this, let me find my way back here. Oh. Oh, I'm sharing the wrong screen. Oh, embarrassing, you guys. Okay. I was cooking, but no one was seeing. No one was seeing. Okay. Okay, so the Vedic cosmology, this is the different realms. This outside of here is the other universes. So our universe is the one, is our source, is our God, is our creation. See this Brahma on the top. This is what I saw the last night of the ayahuasca at Rhythmia. I saw this dome and this type of being in the center. But what if this and this type of universal imagery is other versions of this sphere, of this little sphere that I'm putting back together, right? And then going one step further, what about let's go to some of the esoteric teachings? So let's go to Manly P. Hall, Secret Teachings, Images, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, right? Let's get a good one. So then again, in Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teaching of All Ages is this same type of imagery of these different orbits and within creation. And then we go back to this here. Let's see if I can find it. the engraving. Well, if anything, we'll use this one. This is not the regular art for it, but this is what I have above my bed, is this piece of art, which is, again, this is the esoteric version of what we're seeing in Vedic cosmology, in the lokas, or samsara, right? We have these wheels. These are like depictions. So this is like a more modern, meaning 1500s depiction. Manly P. Hall, this is like a 1800s, early 1900s depiction. And then we're going to these other depictions where we're getting into these. Oh gosh, was I not showing you guys? I'm the worst. This is the Manly P. Hall teaching of all ages. So this is like the early 1900s, late 1800s depiction. This esoteric depiction of, like, similar to the lokas, similar to these different spheres of existence, similar to these different things. This is from like the 1500s, Vedic cosmology, and all of these different versions from Vedic cosmology of the different worlds. And then, okay, right. Then it comes back to what? The chakras, the chakras. So the wheels, imagine these are 3D. We're seeing them as flat. They are 3D, like this sphere going in all directions. The third eye, these images, they're all going in all directions. Where's the Brahma person with the dome, please? If you look up Vedic cosmology, you can see the depiction. And then also, I did a video on YouTube that's called, like, I Saw the Matrix on ayahuasca type of thing. It's on my ayahuasca playlist. And I talk about that experience that I had before I had really seen those images. Okay. I think that's it for now, guys. With Iboga, you went to an angelic creator realm, and it's like universal architects that build and hold various parallel universes. That's what's on the outside of the Vedic cosmos. Okay, well, okay, let's look at that for a second, because what is it called? The Four Corners Flat Earth map. People use it for flat Earth. They're missing the point on the flat Earth thing. Um, but look, this is like what you're talking about as well, right? Like, this is all different. So this is, let me make sure I'm sharing it. Yeah, okay. So this is a depiction of the map of the earth, and what we see here is four angels on the corners. The four angels hold this map together. They hold the earth together. So what's interesting is you said that you had that experience on Iboga. I had that experience in a past life regression with Marcella Kroll. She did a meditation that said, go back to your first incarnation. And this is where I have this imagery of 1 splitting to 2, and then 3 and 4 instantly. And what I saw is these 4 is the 4 elements, is the 4th dimension, is the 4 pillars, which is why I have my 444 necklace. But it was the 4 archangels, and that the 4 archangels are the 4 elements, the Elohim, the elements, the El, angel, Elion, are these holders. The elements, the L, are the holders of physical reality. And then, okay, we get to the scientific type stuff, right? So we have 1 splits to 2, becomes light and dark, right? We have this within the cells, right? We have the positive and negative charge within the cells. We have, which is the feminine and masculine, right? The positive is the masculine, the negative is the feminine. Everything is this polarity. Everything is operating in this. Now, so the 1 cell divides into 2, and then 3, and then quickly 4. So the 3rd dimension cannot be held without the 4th dimension. The 4th dimension is time. The reason why we have a physical reality is because of time, right? So how does that work, right? Why do we need the 4th dimension in order to have a 3rd dimension? Okay, here's the now. And then in a second, here's the now. 1 second, here's the now. 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 And then this eventually keeps going until now there's a past. Now there's a present. We wouldn't be able to hold physical reality would dissolve every single second without time. Time holds the third dimension. So I like four legs on a table creates the stability. So we need the time and fourth dimension in order to have physical reality. So yeah, time doesn't exist, but without time, we wouldn't have a physical reality because we need yesterday, 2 days ago, a week ago, a month ago, and then we need the future, a month from now. These things, we need this in order to hold. So it's like it clicks and then it's the next moment, like a clock, click, next moment, click, next moment, click, next moment. And this eventually, you guys, becomes a freaking sphere, right? If it keeps the wheel of time continues turning, it eventually creates so many moments, so many nows that it creates a sphere. And then this is what a planet is, right? Is a plane that has so many nows that it eventually creates a sphere. Also, why there's so many timelines. Her and Darius would have a great convo. I would love to interview Darius. My friend is a membership on his platform. Thank you, Ian. My friend is a member on his platform, and she has been saying that I need to interview him, and people keep saying it. I watched when I came back from doing ayahuasca, a bunch of people sent me a clip from Darius's video where he described the exact same thing that I had seen, and he had images that he had created with AI. So I do want to interview Darius. What I want to know is how to overwrite aspects of this timeline with aspects of another. Perception. Perception. It's the eye, the way we see it, right? So if you want to overwrite the timeline, you have to see it differently. And then it happens. It's very simple. Now, is it always simple to see something differently? No. In an authentic way? No. But that is what it is. So, okay, let's say there's a timeline where I never get what I want. Everybody overlooks me. I'm forgotten. I'm never chosen. I'm unlovable. All of those things. That timeline exists because of my perception in that way. Then, if I see myself as I'm so blessed, I'm so lucky, everything is always working out for me. I'm always at the right place at the right time. This person is so great. This person who is nice to me, wow, the love that they have for me is so special. I start to live in that reality. And I have a great example of this. I have a friend who is very, 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 very successful. A friend who has created all of their wildest dreams. Like everything that they have ever wanted, they have gotten. They are living their dream life. But they're the most negative person I know. And this is why I know positive manifestation is not only true. Sure, it's true, but it's not the only truth. It's a half truth because I know people who have so much self hatred, so much self doubt, believe they're a failure, and have achieved everything. And this whole like, you need to be positive. No, you need to be positive so that you get to experience that timeline. But to create it, you don't need to be. But this friend of mine has created their dream life, but they see themselves as a failure. They see themselves, and it's bizarre to everybody else, which is like probably a chemical depression, right? When it's not based in the reality that everybody else sees. But this person lives, is it the House and Habit lady? No. House and Habit's awesome. She's very happy. She loves her life. Um, no, it's not House and Habit. Um, no, she's awesome and she loves her life and she has the best time and she has a lot of fun. You know, like, she is a lot of fun. I think that's something that doesn't get translated on the internet well to people who, like, are obsessed with hating her. She is so much fun. But, no, I'm not talking about her, I'm talking about someone else. And this person perceives their reality as, "I'm a failure, nothing works out for me, I'm unlovable, nobody loves me, I'm always gonna be this, I'm always gonna be that." And you wanna meet her? She's awesome. She's very nice. She's cool with everybody that she meets. And so that person perceives their life through the lens of they're a loser, through the lens of they're a failure. But when I look at their life, when anybody looks at their life, it is the definition of dreams coming true. So that's what makes me realize it is actually only the perception. Hating is misspent energy. It is. But it's very true. It is very, very, very true because this person is living their dream life, but can't see it, can't perceive it. So they are on a different timeline because that's the perception they have, even though we can look at their things and objectively see, wow, you're killing it. So I think that's the biggest thing is how do we alter timelines? We alter our perception. We alter the lens, I am in which we experience reality. And that's why a lot of these manifestation teachings do say gratitude, positive feelings, love, embody happiness, say everything's always working out for me. Because then you brainwash yourself into believing it and then you start to see that around you. So those things do work. I'm not saying they don't work. I'm just saying that that's only half of how manifestation works because you also can hate manifest yourself into success as well, which is what a lot of people do, but I don't suggest it. You feel like you recently shifted timelines by changing your perception on your triggers. Oh my God, yeah, right? Like, it's the greatest thing. Okay, so the last thing I'll say is because you mentioned triggers, one of the other things that really came through, and you guys can go watch the previous video about the Monroe Institute, the one that's before this on the playlist. And I talk about like one of my triggers coming up a lot in one of my meditations. I'm like, "Why is this coming up? Like, this is so stupid. Like, my God, like, what the hell? You're like killing my whole like gateway experience right now over something that doesn't even matter. Like, what the fuck?" And then a day later, after I had processed it and all of that, I was like, "Wow, thank you. What a blessing. What an opportunity." And of course, logically, we know our triggers are opportunities. But I was like, damn, this was a gift to heal and see something inside of myself that has been there for so long. The reason it's a trigger is because I've been hurt this way so many times. And I've experienced pain in this area so many times. So I'm like, wow, this trigger is such an opportunity to see something that is still living inside of me. The body is keeping the score still. The score is still up on the scoreboard on this one. There's still a game going that I'm not even engaging with or playing anymore. It's an open game that is not gonna be completed, that's not gonna be won, that's not gonna be finished, that is still just there stagnant with a timer clicking away, how many years on the scoreboard clicking away of this trigger. Congrats on your successful perspective, shift away from old negative programming triggers. Thank you. COVID was a trigger for you, and now you're so thankful because it's what made your life possible. Right. It's beautiful. Mm. You said you like the saying, "Your worst day is someone's dream." That is so true. It is really definitely something to think about, and that's why travel is beautiful, because when we travel, we experience other people's lifestyles, and we're like, there's a lot of things that are nice. Oh, thank you for discussing triggers they are coming up for you right now. Really see it as an opportunity to see what is still living inside of you and being like, damn, that old wound is still taking up space. That old pain is still here. And that timer is clicking away on that scoreboard of the body keeping the score. And I need to close this out. I need to finish this game. I need to call it a truce. I thought it was gone. Yeah, that's the thing that's crazy about triggers. It's always we think it's gone. We always think it's done. And this comes back to the spiral, right? So like healing is not linear or just straight up like a rocket. It's a spiral, right? So we first have it very close, like say, here's the pain, here's the wound. And then we first have it right next to it. And then some time passes and we're a little bit above it, but we reach it again and we look down. And then we come again a little bit higher. We're a little further from it, but the pain comes back a little bit further. And now we have this perspective. We have a better perspective of it, but the pain is back again. The trigger is back again. Then we get further from it, come back around again. further come back around again. So this is where healing works in a spiral versus a linear way. And each time, over time, as we work through it, we have a better perspective, a higher perspective, a bird's eye perspective, further from the original pain. But we can always still kind of keep coming back to this spiral again until we truly release. And it's not just logical, because this stuff also lives in your body as well, you know? The body keeps the score. So it does live in the body as well. So we might think, "Oh, I've gotten over that. I'm not worried about that happening. I know this person won't do that to me. I know that this isn't gonna happen to me again. I know that this is different this time," logically. But then the response is still like, "Oh shit, is it gonna happen again?" You know, and that's normal, and don't judge yourself for thinking it was over, you know, for thinking that the pain was done or whatever. You know, we can't judge ourselves for that, because this is the process of healing, of learning. You've been feeling a lot in your body lately. Searching for that blasted scorecard. Okay, yes, right. Definitely like the video. Have you read the book Holographic Universe? Yes, I did a whole video on it that was very popular on TikTok back in my heyday. Mhm. Um, they call them, that's a cool term. They call them spiralizations, because they always another facet or further along from the trigger. Oh, that's beautiful. Cool. Oh, yes. Thanks, Ash. And then I'm ready to go. Podcast plug. So you guys are in for such a treat for the podcast this week. This Thursday, I'm going to have Nadine Artemis. Do you guys know who Nadine Artemis is? Like, this is a big deal. Nadine Artemis from Living Libations. And she is a groundbreaker. Like, she spoke about seed oils, giving a lecture about seed oils in 1996. This is the OG of health, of beauty, of health, wellness, of natural natural homeopathic care. Like, she wrote this incredible book called Renegade Beauty, which is like a bible of every ailment, everything. But this is not like your standard stuff. This is not like, oh, you can find these things on the internet. This is 30 years of trial and error, creating her potions and her concoctions. And Living Libations is one of the leading original health beauty brands. All right, it's not doing it. And she also has her own um, frankincense. Nobody else in the world has this type of frankincense that she uses. It's called occulta frankincense, which is, it is otherworldly. Yeah. So you guys are going to want to listen on Thursday on YouTube and on Spotify, which will be Nadine Artemis interview. You're going to be blown away. She's going to tell you about oral care. She broke the mold on oral health care because she was not a dentist, and wrote a best-selling book about how to properly take care of your teeth and gums, and to remineralize and heal them. And she also has some interesting things about even some of these healthy toothpastes and things like that. Stuff around sun, we talked about sun exposure. We talked about the circadian rhythms. We talked about hormones. We talked about all types of stuff. So you're definitely gonna want to watch this one. Okay, guys, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Nice. All right, guys, love you. Thank you. And I'll see you guys on Thursday. Bye.